Good evening, and thanks so much for joining us. I'm Christy McDonald. Tonight, my week is on the road, coming to you from the Book Cadillac Hotel in Detroit, the site of the Business Leaders for Michigan CEO Summit. Hundreds of CEOs are here to brainstorm some new ways to move Michigan forward, and we'll sit down with some of them to get their take on how Michigan is positioning itself to continue on the road to economic recovery. This is the second year Business Leaders for Michigan has held its CEO Summit. This one-day event is designed to empower entrepreneurs, the business community, and civic leaders across the state with new ideas to help their organizations compete and win in today's global economy. The theme for this year's summit, Putting Michigan in the Winner's Circle, brings together dozens of entrepreneurs to discuss new ways to compete and highlight some success stories. Business Leaders for Michigan, a private, nonprofit organization started back in 2009 with the goal of making Michigan a top 10 state for job, economic, and personal income growth. The group is made up of CEOs, chairpersons, or other senior executives from Michigan's largest companies and universities, all uniquely positioned to drive the state forward. Joining us now, as always, are My Week contributors, the editorial page editors of the Detroit News and the Detroit Free Press, Nolan Finley and Stephen Henderson. And also joining us now to talk about the CEO Summit and what it means for the state of Michigan is the president and CEO of Business Leaders for Michigan, Doug Rothwell. Gentlemen, Doug, it's good to have you all here at the Book Cadillac.
It's great to be here.
So you've got a lot of brain power all in one place, Doug, at this summit here today. How would you describe right now the business climate in the state of Michigan?
Well, heck of a lot better than it was a few years ago. I mean, all the numbers say that not only is the economy growing again, which it was in decline for about a decade, but if you look at some of the factors that behind the numbers in terms of some of the things that we benchmark against other states, all the trends are moving in the right direction. So that makes us feel like a few years from now, things are going to be better as well.
Well, Doug, as Christy mentioned, we've got a tremendous amount of brain power in this building today and here for this summit. People who have solved problems in their businesses and helped solve problems in their communities. In city halls, county offices, not so much brain power. How does the business community sort of fill that leadership gap that we've seen in this community in southeastern Michigan?
Notice how he set you up there and said, not much brain power in City Hall. You don't have to accept that.
I won't.
I would invite a dispute to that premise. But how do you fill that gap between a city and a county under very weak leadership, failed governments, and a business community that's vibrant and has a vision for this region?
Well, I mean, I think we're trying to do it by getting the facts out there, first of all, Nolan. I mean, one of the things we haven't done as a state in the past is really said, look, we are in this competitive world, and we always used to look at ourselves compared to what we did the year before and said, okay, well, if we're doing better, that's good. Well, it's not good enough, because if everybody else is doing 5 times better than you're still falling behind. And so one of the voids I think we filled as an organization is to say, look, we're going to be the fact base. We're going to be the keepers of the data. And that gives everybody a chance to objectively say, how well am I doing? And then the other thing is, through sessions like this, is to share some of the experiences that businesses have had reinventing themselves. You look at today's session, I mean, companies like La-Z-Boy, Meijer, these are companies that have been around a long time. They were once startups, people forget that, but they had to reinvent themselves to do better. And those are lessons that are good for everybody to learn.
Yeah, but Doug, if you'd had this session a few years ago, it would be a heavy blend of business leaders and political leaders and even perhaps some labor leaders. You'd have felt that need to, I mean, this is almost entirely a business session here today. I mean, has the business community moved on from government in this community?
Well, one of the messages we are sending is that if you look at the places that have performed the best over a sustained period of time, it's where the community leaders and the business leaders set the agenda. And I think that if you look at Michigan's history, at least, is that we've done better in some decades than others based on who our government leaders were. But we weren't able to sustain those improvements over a long period of time. And one of the mantras we're really trying to get out there is we need to step up as community and business leaders to say, what is it that we expect? And let's sustain that through election cycles. Right now, to your point, it's great that we have a governor and a legislature that kind of gets this discussion we're having. But 5 years, 10 years from now, it may not be there.
Doug, BLM had a very aggressive agenda laid out for Governor Snyder in his first 4 years. You got a lot of what you were looking for, but there's some pretty big items still out there. Roads, higher ed funding, I know, is something you want to see increased. What do you think are the prospects that we'll see those things done before the end of the governor's first term?
I don't think very good. I mean, I think that we're going into an election year right now, and I think that this year is going to be a pretty stable year with not a lot of major progress. I would hope that we would make more progress on those issues beyond the election, but you know, the reality is we have made a lot of progress on what John Rakolta calls the hard side of the data in terms of, you know, lowering taxes or getting our regulations in line. But if you look at kind of the softer side of our agenda, not as much progress. And I think it's because there's less consensus among the public and all of us about what the answers are. We have some, but we need to build more of that consensus. The other is they're just tougher issues because they take a longer time to achieve. I mean, you can pass a law and change the create a corporate income tax. We can't get to be a top 10 state for college affordability in a year.
Bottom line is that you have all of these great people meeting in one place, but where do you go after today, and what is on your agenda?
Well, our big agenda really is about those softer issues now. I mean, we've been saying this over and over again. We are relatively competitive when you look at the cost of doing business in Michigan, the regulations. Not that you still always need to make improvements, but we're pretty good. We now need to make sure that we've got the talent base for the future. We need to have the infrastructure to help our businesses ship their goods around the world, and we need to do a better job at focusing on some of the assets that we have are some of the best, like our airport and our international gateway, and really use that to accelerate growth. And that's the message we have today is let's focus, let's get around a common set of priorities and be cohesive about doing it.
And we look forward to more of those conversations to come. Doug Rothwell, thanks so much for joining us. We appreciate it.